Welcome back one more time to the Friends and Family Show, coming to you live on Channel One TV. And we're always live from our studios here at number 5 Ola Hansen Lane in Tesano. You're very welcome. Well, you know, on this show, like I always say, we bring out all the emotions and we tell you just as it is. We need you to, help us talk about the things that you are pretty much sometimes shy to talk about. Pretty much don't want to, get into it at all. Probably because it's too heavy or probably it's, too much for you to deal with. But that's all right. We are here to do just that for you. Now, my super special name is Noyo Quarter. Like always, I break the lights and I want for you to be a part of the show tonight. Send me a message via WhatsApp on the number 020-444-7033. That is 020-444-7033. And don't forget to add your name and location. When you find me on Instagram, you can do so on Instagram at na_oyo_quarter. And when you do, don't forget to hit the like and the follow button. Well, our topic today is taking care of the elderly. Now, our parents are taking care of us. Now it's time for us to, do the same. Is it too much? Is it too heavy? Are we doing more or we're doing less? Now that it's our turn to, do the very same things that they did for us. Let's get into this conversation after this break. One more time, you are welcome to the Friends and Family Show.
Asilwela ukunqoba kuphela kepha silwela ukwakha isizwe esinohlonze. Sekunjalo.
This June, the business wave is back and it's bigger than ever. The City Business Festival 2025 on City FM and Channel One TV, where it's all about business. This June, we will be celebrating Ghanaian businesses, re-examining our business modules and practices through our business fora, and sharing knowledge through our on-air business discussions. Make a business date with the on-air series every weekday at 9 a.m. on the City Breakfast Show on 97.3 City FM and 10 a.m. on Breakfast Daily on Channel One TV. From expert interviews to real-world insights to the tools you need to grow. Don't miss a single moment this June. It's the City Business Festival 2025, celebrating everything business. Only on City FM and Channel One TV. Your business, your future, your time is now. Stay tuned, stay inspired, and let's grow together. The City Business Festival 2025, celebrating everything business.
The City Business Festival 2025 is powered by 97.3 City FM and Channel One TV, and it's proudly sponsored by Absa Bank, MTN Business, and Zonda Tech Ghana Limited.
You're welcome back to the Friends and Family Show, always live on Channel One TV, here at our studios at number 5 Ola Hansen Lane in Tesano. You're very welcome if you just joined. We're talking about taking care of the elderly, and I've got 3 wonderful guests in my studio. And to my right, I have Mr. David. I was actually going to say Kweku D. But today they have to be official small. Yeah. So Kweku David, should I add the last name? Sichi. Let me just add it. You say broadcast journalist now. But you actually took care of your father for a whole year.
Yes, almost a year.
So we get into that. He was 82?
Yes.
May his soul rest.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll get into that conversation.
Died on the 31st of May, 2023. Yeah.
Just around the corner.
Yeah, for almost a year, I was helping to take care of him. And it was quite something.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have Dr. A.C. Ansah as well, who is the founder of Association of Ghana's Elders. Nice. And then I have Evans Edu-Jemfi, the founder of Great Age Global. Correct. You're very welcome.
Thank you.
So we're talking about taking care of the elderly. So it could be your father, it could be your grandparents, granduncles, or probably just an elderly person. Yeah. And, they have actually taken care of us. We didn't ask. They also didn't ask us. Nobody give anybody anything. You understand? Yeah. I was sitting by heaven.
That's right.
And they said,
you decided to bring me here.
Thank you. So that one day you have taken care of me. Now let's say I change. They say, hey, sister, what I gave to you, so I said, na me do am. Hey.
The biggest shock of my life was it sort of dawned on me one day that there's something wrong with this picture.
Right.
I remember sitting on his lap. I remember. Some people say, I don't remember when I was a child, some of the things I did when I was a kid, at a certain age. But I remember sitting on his lap and he's holding a book and he's reading to me. I remember it, right? And here he is. He can't help himself. I have to lift him from the chair in the hall to his bed. It was painful.
Right.
Yeah. He carried me, took me to church, took me to school. I remember
held your hand.
From one secondary school, the boys were teasing me. Boys, they may get chance small, they will tease you. And I would cry on my way, I'll be in the car with my younger siblings. And my dad, they say, they say, Mietum Kakra. Oh. If I'm Mietum too much.
Hey, Blackie.
Blackie. All those things. Yeah, and Charlie used to pain me. They would say, your father's a coal miner, that's why you're black. All kinds of things. You see, and as you get older, you begin to realize that children are wicked.
In a way, like in a really nice way,
things, But it's almost as though if we get a chance to express ourselves in a certain way for somebody else to be in pain, then we are better. Kind of thing, but it's an unfortunate thing. But it happens.
Sometimes too, we don't necessarily think that we want the person to be in pain.
No.
At that time, we're excited about what we're doing.
It's just fun.
It's just fun. Yeah. So it is later that you're like, okay, so it's actually like you're making that guy feel bad. Yeah. But at that point, you've grown a little. Why you said what you
but
want to say.
My dad would talk me through it and just try and help me out. And by the time we get home, the tears have disappeared, and all of that. So this was him. So to see him in that state where he couldn't stand, he had gone through, the illness had progressed to a point where I didn't know this at the time, but now understanding what the medical process was and the illness development stages where his spine had been severed.
Okay.
And so he had no sensitivity below the waist and he couldn't stand. So I had to carry him, Of course, we brought nursing attendants and all of that. But, when you are the child,
you feel the responsibility.
You have a certain way you want your father to be treated. And to see that somebody is treating the person in a way that's less than honoring.
It's painful.
It's painful. Yeah.
Right. So now let's talk about how it feels to be in the reverse. Now they've taken care of you, bought feeding bottle for you, Cerelac Accra. you know, now they've held your hands to learn to walk, you know, to read. You've seen all that process.
Yeah.
But this is you not knowing what it's all about. But the reverse is different because they know that you are taking care. So let's talk about the reverse. You know, now it's my turn to take care of you, but it's not as exactly as you did for me. It sometimes has, you know, this weight, it puts this weight on you. First off, you're wondering why this man or woman is going through this at this point. And, you know, I can't do anything about it. You know, it gets to the point that you really can't do anything about it. It's old age. Either it comes with it or it doesn't come with it. Or some way of life or something has brought that person to this particular person. Now it's my turn to take care of you. How does it feel?
For me, my mom passed almost exactly a year ago.
Oh.
And my getting into this work was when I watched her take care of my grandmother.
Right.
You know, and then my grandmother passed. And just getting to that point where, one, you look and you know that when you get to that level, you would want somebody to give you the kind of care and attention, etc. And then also you realize that things have changed around us. Family situations have changed. In the past, where you had grandma and grandpa, aunties, uncles, children, everybody was around them.
Yes.
But things have changed. And so the vulnerability is deepened now. And imagine the loneliness when there are people around you. You know, when there's nobody around, you can actually
Accept the fact that there's nobody.
But they are there. This one is on the phone. This one is here. This one is there. So there's a lot more that goes on, you know, with older people now compared to before. And our gadgets are not helping, you know, taking us away from them. And just watching my mother didn't struggle for long. She was ill for about 3 weeks and then she passed. But just progressively watching her going down. And before then, you know, you go there Sundays, you go spend time with her. Maybe 1 or 2 weekdays you pass by. And now you realize, wow, now she needs all of us around her constantly. And having to juggle that. This week, for example, is the week leading up to the the Awareness Day, right, for elderly abuse and neglect, which is June 15th. And sometimes when you are in the situation of a caregiver, we have family caregivers and then we have the professional caregivers. Without the proper training, it's very easy to feel frustrated. You're asking, how does it feel? It's very easy to feel frustrated because this is somebody, if the person has, let's say, early signs of dementia, for example, and people aren't trained, they don't understand what's going on. Nama, why are you saying that today nobody's fed you? Why are you doing this? And there's frustration that builds up. If you're not mature enough to handle it, then that degenerates into the abuse that people met out to senior citizens. You know, so there's a blessing in it, taking care of older people. And then also there's the other side, the difficulty of managing it. You may have an older person who I had one of my old ladies, she was depressed because she had lost, you know, her independence. And there was a day she was so frustrated, like it's built up. And she actually hits the nurse with her walking stick. And of course, if you are the caregiver, you get upset, you know, and then you walk out. And now here's this old lady who's remorseful, whose depression and frustration and everything has, you know, just gotten her to this point. Without the proper training and support, people leave them alone. You know, so it's not easy. There's a blessing in it. There's joy, you know, taking care of a sick parent, and sometimes they're not sick. If you have somebody who's in their 90s, I've met a 90-year-old who's busy playing Sudoku on her tablet.
Wow.
And I've also met 90-year-olds who are very weak and need, you know, the care. So it's not easy. It's a blessing, but it's tough.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, so just to add to what Dr. Shansan is saying and what Kukwa said earlier, I'm thinking of it in the brighter side. So the point you make about a 90-year-old who is playing with a phone or a gadget, it takes me to my own great-grandmother. I think my love for doing this work also stems from a family tradition. It just happens that I observed that in my maternal side, they seem to grow older. So, for example, I came to meet my great-grandmother. That's my mother's grandmother.
Wow.
Yes. And then my mom tells me that she also came to meet her great-grandmother. But it had never occurred to me that, like you're saying, there's that blessing of longevity in the family until I switched over to my paternal side and decided to, after secondary school, assist my paternal grandmother in her shop. So what do I mean? I will go to carry her cloth from her shop. I mean, we had a store, and on Tuesdays was a market day in Rio, so Juna says precisely. And whilst I'm there helping her hang her clothes, that's why I really love these African patterns. I have a whole research coming out sometime next year. And it just dawned on me that, look, they're not just old, they have a lot to offer. How and what can I do to glean from these wisdom? And then I realized that they have so much to share until you ask them questions.
Yeah.
And when I further probed, it was obvious that they are not willing to give to you what they think you do not need. So the more questions you are asking, the more interested they are getting into your space, and they also allowing you into their space. And I think it's at that point of knowledge that helps you as a caregiver. Now you go into their space and you're not just helping them, quote and unquote, you are rather engaging them.
Right.
And so they have this at the back of your mind that, oh, he or she understands us. And therefore, for a very long time, I was more or less a PA to Mr. Joe Latte of blessed memory. And one of the points, my lowest moment is when I got to know how he was going. You know, I went to see him, it was a Friday, I went to see him before I left for the office. And around 11 o'clock, I was in a meeting when I had about 3 or 4 missed calls from the caregiver. And at about 2 o'clock, I called back after the meeting, and he tells me, Mr. Latte wanted to speak to you. Mr. Latte said he wanted to speak to you. And I said, what really happened? He said, he asked me to go get him coconut water. By the time I came back, every sign the girl was describing was telling me the man was saying goodbye. But here was a caregiver who was so helpless and didn't know a thing about what was happening. By the time we brought back the water, and also it was just a painful moment. I said, why didn't I stay home that day just to see the woman say goodbye? It was such a painful moment. But the point is, for almost 11 years, I've been with him. I know what he likes, why he would choose BBC over a local station, you know, that kind of, but I perfectly understood him, and we had this way of getting to know each other and understand. That is not to say I don't do useful things, but the point is I had sort of, you know, judging from my experience with my grandparents and so on. So when I get into their space, I perfectly understand what is going on. You know, why would, for example, a lady I had to speak to, insists that this woman is so difficult and adamant, that's the mother, is so difficult and adamant because in her words, she doesn't cooperate with them. Why? Because when they are giving her medicine, she's not taking it, she's not, only for us to discover that the woman had a problem swallowing water. It was just an article I shared with her. She read, oh, this could be the issue, before they took her to the hospital, diagnosed, and we realized this is an issue. It wasn't at her own will. Something was holding her back. So I think if we really want to get into their space and help them, we must be patient and go into their world. It's the same way you were talking about the rivers. When we want to raise children, we train those who are taking care of them to understand their world and go in there with that understanding.
That's why you find mothers do la 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 la. Baby like da.
Why they use cartoons instead of this proper documentaries? Because basically it's the same thing, but you are presenting it in a way that their mind can easily assimilate and then process it.
So do you think that we really do enough for our grandparents, or let's say our parents? Do we really do enough? I'll give it up to my mom. My grandma passed 2 years ago. She was 96. And it got to a point that she was partially blind, one eye, but she was still doing everything because she knows her way around her house. She would get up, like, she wants to be by herself. She doesn't want you doing stuff for her to make her feel like she can't do it. So she would go around the house till finally the other one went off. Now it was difficult for her. I just give it up to my mom. She could leave us and go and be with her. and come back only weekends. I say, oh, maybe I'm with you get. But she, yeah, you know, she had the time,
Right.
because she said that, you know, when she gave it to me, my dad passed. So she's my mom and she's my dad. You know, so if it's time for me to take care of her, that's it. So she took time off. She wants to live with her. She said, you won't even find her in town 2 hours. So she has to go back. Like, you know, she likes to eat this, so let me make that. She likes to wear this, so let me do that, you know. And she'll call you and say, oh, and taste this or chocolate too, you know, because that is what she wants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you come to visit, bring yogurts, bring chocolates. She, so when you go and visit, she'll not ask you anything. Oh, nah, yogurts. She's always, nah, chocolates. It's in new room. You don't have. Which one are you using to buy the chocolate? She said she put this on her tongue and it will melt. You know, my mom will do all of it. She's always in a hurry till. So I saw my mom really break down when the doctor said that, oh, Nay vitals, everything is gone up, so we just have to wait for her to go away. I saw the struggle because like she just didn't want to let go. I'll just give it to her because in fact we were saying, why have you dropped everything in your life to do this? You know, we didn't understand her. Like you leave us, you're gonna sit with the old lady that you can't converse with. When you start conversation, or she go and mention somebody's name.
That's right.
You know, you can't, but she wants to be there. She just wants her to feel that she's there. You know, do you think we do enough for our grandparents?
I think now we may often have the capacity to do more materially.
Okay.
And so better health care. So you're taking them to the hospital, you're getting them stuff, you need a walking cane, you need a wheelchair, all those things we're doing. So I think materially, generally there are those who have a support system, they're taken care of. But even with the support system, emotionally, I don't think we're doing enough.
Right.
Emotionally, the seeing them and then dashing off, there's neglect.
Right.
And sometimes it's hard for us to accept, but if you're working professional and you're busy going back and forth, if you look within, you probably accept that, you know what, I can do more.
You know,
or
there's
if I
always
had
that
my
guilt.
way, I would want to do more.
Right.
There will be the
There's
guilt.
guilt.
You know, but I think emotionally, we're still leaving them stranded. You know, where the connections aren't as strong as can
Why don't you
be.
think sometimes they understand?
Sometimes,
at some
you know,
point you have your own life to live. Like
Yes.
you're doing,
Yes.
taking care of the children. There's work. I think sometimes they
but
feel that.
we also abuse that. Because grandma knows you are busy at work, she's not going to call you. And so you also get used to not hearing from her and assuming all is well.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, so here be your friend, and your problem.
Right.
When really they're thinking, you know what, let me leave the young ones to just live their lives. But they are struggling, they are suffering inside. You know, and that is why when they finally catch you and they start the conversation,
They want
to pull their head out.
you know, and sometimes they're telling the story like, hey, Ma, you mentioned it
That's
last
right.
week. They will still repeat
No
it,
services,
you know.
'cause they have to tell you everything.
They need to connect. They need to connect. So when they don't have that on a regular basis, the 3 hours that you give them on a Sunday afternoon, that is when they want to pour everything out. That's a sign that they don't have enough. Interaction with others. Yeah.
You know, we have 5 kids, my parents.
Right.
So it's almost like there were enough human beings to share the love around.
That's right.
Right. But having said that, if I have to be honest with myself, I feel guilty now that I didn't do enough.
You think you
know.
could have done better?
Oh yeah. You see, and even so, I visited, 2-3 times a week. I would go, you know. Sometimes during the day, most of the time after work, but sometimes during the day I'll, get permission to get off and then I'll go and just spend a little time and then come back and all that. And my dad was always magnanimous. He would always say, David, I don't take it for granted. Thank you very much for coming through. And I'm like, why are you? It's my responsibility.
He understands it.
And for me, it's an honor to be able to spend a little time considering what you've done for me. If I am because you were.
Yeah.
I don't
didn't just
exist
come out,
without
exactly.
you.
That's right.
So it's an honor. You see, so I didn't like it when he would say, I don't take it for granted. I'm really grateful. Thank you for taking time out and all that. But I realized that. I realized
yes,
that.
others don't get it.
Yes.
You find them on the streets, neglected. Others don't get it that way.
Yes.
Exactly.
And I'm sure in your line of work, you see that end of the spectrum quite often, where some people are like, you know what, you're old, it's your problem. You deal with it. Forgetting that they are gonna get there. Everybody gets there.
And David, the point you make about you'll get there, I have a simple analogy to say that this morning when we woke up, we shouldn't forget that we are one day older. And so, as we say in note, and note here is Network of Organization for the Elderly. So she is with a different organization, I'm with a different organization. We are about 11 now. The simple analogy we put out is that it's not about the aged. In fact, we hesitate to call them the aged because it's about the aging process. You and I, today we may be younger, but like I just said,
we're aging.
Tomorrow morning, we are one day older.
So it's a process.
And it's a process, it's not an event. And that's what we miss. So when we are thinking about, quote unquote, the elderly, we forget to realize that we are actually talking about ourselves. And so the point you made earlier, why your dad will appreciate, it's simply because a lot of people do not see it as such. And they know, they have colleagues, they talk to each other, and they can see the neglect, the struggles they are going through. So if you take it upon yourself, in spite of your busy schedules, to come and visit and spend time with them, then they must appreciate it, which is a very good thing. Now the point I'm making about visitation, Professor Dixon, Christy Dixon of Blessed Memory Methodist Church, made a point I read about and have taken it into my heart dearly about visitation. He said it in Fanti. Ose, Ngosra, Wansrahim, which translates to me,
there's anointing.
There's anointing in visitation. So when you visit someone, literally, it's like you're pouring oil on them. And that's why the elderly will appreciate it when you come close to them, and even if it's just 10 minutes. My recommendation is, don't try to go stay for 3 hours. Break that 3 hours into 30 minutes 10 times.
True.
That frequency and that knowledge that, Kwesi River.
I was just going to say that they look forward to it. Well, my dad passed at 65. But, when I married and I left, he's always looking after, when you call him on a Sunday, back, you get it, like, he's left home, like, I will turn and go back. I'm not too far. He's like an hour away. But he just wants you to know that he's expecting you to be there. They look forward to you coming. But we think that they're too much. They're doing too much.
There's a research I cited that said that the secret to longevity, or one of the secrets to longevity, is having expectation of tomorrow.
Hope.
That I'll be here tomorrow. I look forward to doing that tomorrow. Just that thought is contributing to their longevity.
That's beautiful. Now, and there's one thing that I've actually taken from this very conversation is that, growing old is a process. Just look at yourself. There's been times that you run up the stairs like that, pop, 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 and you're at the top, and you come down, pop, 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 pop. Now, I guess, of course, you have to hold the rail. You go 2 steps, I say, I said, my bro, whoa, you need to pay attention to this. It's not that do like this way. I've gained weight. It's like your knees are breaking down. Let's talk about this after this break. You're still on the Friends and Family Show. Don't go nowhere.
This weekend on Footprints, we remember veteran broadcaster Mike Egan, reflecting on his remarkable journey in broadcasting from the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation to the BBC and the lasting legacy he leaves behind in Ghanaian media.
I take pride, again, if you permit me to go my top,
Please.
to be the first person to introduce phonies in Ghana in 1972.
Wow.
During the Champions Reign. I started promoting Sikema and said a lot of nice things about his music, but did not do the same thing to Nana Ampadu. In fact, when I compared them, I said Nana Ampadu's music was repetitive.
I understand.
Not
So you must have caused the problem.
Well, maybe I did. One of the people I interviewed was the highlight, I would say, is Dr. Ifimamu.
Yeah.
He was then, I think, 75 when I interviewed him on my program.
Oh.
1, 2, 3. Well, welcome. Well, welcome. Well, welcome to the show. Pam, 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 parara.
Footprints shows every Friday at 7 p.m. with a repeat on Sunday at 4 p.m. only on Channel 1 TV.
All right, welcome back. It's still the Friends and Family Show. My name is Noyo Kwote. We're talking about taking care of the elderly. You know, before we went for the break, I had to, tell you that. I bet that you were thinking about it. Say, yay, sister. You should try it one time. David Crow was telling me a story. You want to share that story? No, hold on. I don't want to let your enemies get you. Enemies. I don't want your enemies to buy. It's showing already. You have grace for, you understand? Yeah. So what if I say do push up 20, push up.
Do it two.
No, this is the bell lock. Let's think. This is the bell. So you have to put in mind that you're growing old as well. It's a process. So when you see the elderly, I like it when people respect the elderly. Yep. They, say the please, the thank you, the sir, the madam. I really like it when people address them like that. Sometimes they would say that, oh, I don't want you calling me that. Call me by my first name. That's all right. But it still doesn't take the respect away.
Right.
All the things that you have to do. Respect is not just about the things you say. Your mannerisms and all of that also counts. So now, how are we taking care of our elderly? Now let's do financial. There's a lot of money that goes into that, especially when you have parents who are pottying, they do the potty not by themselves. So you have to buy adult diapers.
Yeah.
You have to change the bed sheets.
Pay for nurses to be
Pay for nurses, toiletries, food, because at that age you have specific meals, especially probably they're diabetic or something. Now let's talk about money. It's draining. Because even with the regular meals that you prepare, come on, it's draining. Unless, of course, want to decide that end of the day, soaking. That one is your own business. Because, I'm checking I calculate my pocket to say 1 Ghana.
Or small
soaking level. But now you have to take...
Even Gobe is expensive now.
No, it's okay. Around as 465 cedi airport. If that five, you not get one sachet. Yeah. But let's look at it like, at least you bought a low car.
Yeah.
Now you do your calculation. You can do 001. And the calculation, there's no granules inside. You add small pinch of salt. You get, but that's you. Because you can take that.
Right.
But they're old now. Probably not eating oil. They're not eating pepper. They're not eating salt. That's what we called the special diet.
Yeah.
Nice. Now let's talk about the whole money thing. This is you taking care of yourself, taking care of your family. Now you have an elderly person who's depending on you because retirement, by me.
Yeah. So I mean, for my father was very astute at organizing his money. So he made sure he looked maybe 20, 30 years down into the future and planned for his life, But, the interesting thing is that once he stopped active work. And my dad was somebody who kept moving. You know, he believed in that. And I think that it was just, the difference was just maybe about 7 days from the time he walked to when he couldn't walk again.
Oh, wow.
It was just like 7 days, literally.
Interesting.
Because,
That would be very painful,
yes,
yeah,
and
for
again,
him.
it was because we at that time didn't know exactly what was going on there, you know, but it was a cancer, you know, and it had got into his, it had eaten into his spine, the metastasis, you know, into his spine, and then it severed. So that
Disc was.
so suddenly he can't feel anything, and he couldn't stand. Once you can't stand, that's it, you know. But he was walking just a week earlier,
Wow.
and
That was very draining.
and you know, even when he stopped working, we have a large garden in the house, right? And he would always go around the garden. He took care of the dog. He just liked, he was an active person. He just liked to do things in the house, you know. And he always said, self-service is not slavery. You understand? So for him, is in his mind, empra mepra. Do you understand? If nobody's there to sweep, what's wrong with me? Can I not sweep? I can sweep. So he was always active. But for us, at the time he stopped walking, and the reality of what that meant, nursing care, because all of us are
Cannot be available.
employed
Yes.
in different places. Some of us are not even in the country, you know. So nursing care, the issue of the diapers and medicines and the medicines, Charlie, believe me, the medicines, that was something else. You see, and because of the particular illness, pain management, and Charlie, I discovered that there are levels of painkillers.
Right.
Not everything is para. There are levels to this thing. There are levels to this thing, you know. So for me, that's where the cost implication and the fact that we were blessed. Like I said, there's 5 of us. So we basically would team up together on our WhatsApp group and say, okay, you know what, there's this bill. How do we go about it? You know, and we also acknowledge that not all of us are equally, you know, at the same level financially. So then it's actually, you pitch in. Do what you can, do what you can, do what you can. Let's put it together, and then we sort it out. So that's how we managed it financially. We did as a team, as a 5-member team, you know. If you have more, you bring more. If you have less, you just bring what you have. Let's do it together, you know. And for me, I think that was probably would have been one of my dad's greatest joys. To see that his children were working in unity and in unison to take care of him. I think for me, when I sit here now looking at him and his values, that would have been one of his greatest joys.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But the financial thing actually hits you so well, you know, that it breaks you down at some point because you need to get the ball rolling. There's some of the medication that you can't break through. Now, this is you probably if you're just an only child, you know. I don't know, it gives you some kind of pressure, you know, psychologically. You're sitting now and you're thinking, how can I get this through? Because you want to see this man or this woman go through it. You know, my dad had a stroke and it was just 9 days for him to go away. Like it hit him, and then on the 9th day, he was out. Yeah. So let's say between the 3rd and the 4th days, he was worried. He couldn't talk, but he could write. So he would always ask for a pen and a paper. And one thing that he kept asking was, "You write the bill."
Yeah.
You know, is your money enough? Then he gives you his password. You know, then he says, my card is here, my account number, my bank details, you know. He was like, you know, if it is too much, I've got some money. You get it? Because he was also thinking that, you know, where I am now, that's a lot because you're doing MRI, you're doing that, and he's wondering, everybody's life all of a sudden, you know, has come to him. Yes. So how is everybody going through that? So you can just imagine if, you know, he didn't have that on the side. Well, we didn't take it. But let's say we were struggling. We definitely, you know, had somebody who was thinking about, so what if he didn't have? You know, it would be tough. Because, Charlie, sometimes some of the medicine we bought, By the time we came to put this on the table,
He was gone.
he was gone.
Yet very expensive.
Thank you. And there was no refund.
The last,
It still hurts me till today.
the last batch of medications we bought was, I think, it arrived like 2 days before he passed. You know, and we weren't expecting him because you see, he had sort of dipped and come back up a little bit. You know, it wasn't great, but it had
But
come
does it
back.
happen
It
like
had come
that
back
to
a little
everybody?
bit. You know, no, I think it's a common
does, yeah.
feature. It's
Right,
a
'cause
common
they
thing.
feel better
They come
one
back
day and then the
a little
next day.
and then I was at work one day. I don't know why nobody told me, but I had just finished the show, Breakfast Daily, and I just had this urgency. Go home. So I quickly rushed out, saw HR, and said to her, listen, I need to go and see my dad. I need to go. When I went home, he wasn't in the house. Where's Daddy? He's at the hospital. And I was like, and he didn't come back home. That was the day he went, 31st May 2023. Yeah.
You know, if we quantify it and focus on that, it builds up a sense of a burden.
Right.
But then if you were to have a newborn child and you have to buy the Pampers and all those things, you're still going to do it. You know, and this one, because of the emotional toll that comes with it, you know, it's difficult for people to figure it out. But we make a way. You just
leave it.
Yeah,
Exactly.
you just have to. And I think it's also important for people to realize that this is an opportunity. What can I do where I can focus on work, etc., and have some money work for me? You know, so that if this is a time to think of some smart, you know, entrepreneurial something that
Right.
I have a trusted cousin who can look after some business
While I
that
go
makes
and
a
do it,
little
right.
money, so we can, you know, it's a good time to find alternative means, you know, to support them. And sometimes, I mean, it's important to talk to the caregivers, I mean, the clinical folks who take care of them, so that rather than buy something that is a branded medication, there's a generic option, which will also do the same job. And so talking to the doctors and figuring out what are some of the alternatives, you may be prescribed antibiotics. This one is a nice big brand and it's 400 cedis. And then this other one might be 200 cedis. It's a no-name
does
brand,
almost
but it
the
does
same
the same
thing,
thing.
right.
So I think there are also smart ways of managing that cost. And sometimes, I mean, for someone like my mom, there were times when she wanted to go see the eye doctor. And you know that, man, when we go, it will be the same thing. Oh, there's nothing wrong. And, you know, you come back home and it's a cost. But you also don't want to throw it in their faces. You know that there's nothing wrong with your eyes. And, you know, when we get there,
Sometimes the
we'll
way
just
we
come
even talk
back.
to them,
And
car breaks their hearts.
yeah.
Oh,
So-
you know?
So it's important to manage that. Yeah.
It hurts as well.
Yeah.
It does. That's why we're talking about being mindful and not abusing them, especially verbal abuse.
Yeah.
You know, caretakers sometimes out of caregivers out of ignorance will just say something like the story we're sharing about somebody using the cane. You know, it's from the point of ignorance. But on the issue of financing and supporting them financially or providing finance for them, there is a perspective I would like to share. See, when we are talking about retirement planning and so on, much of the time the attention is on the financial bit. Perfect. But I've also discovered in this line of work that a lot of the seniors, what they need is social investment. So just as we were talking about earlier, now that we are getting there by day, not by month, if you so wish, how are you consciously investing in people such that when the need be and you do not have your immediate family even being able, naturally, not that people, you do this with the intention that they will come back, but it's a principle. What you sow is what you reap. So I have classical example of Arc Lifestyle. There's one of their client, Auntie Koyo, who lives close by. So I visit her from time to time. And the woman was really in need. She didn't ask, but because of her activeness and contribution in church, the Reverend Minister decided to make an appeal publicly or openly in church, and she was overwhelmed. Oh, if this is the woman, I will do this, I will do that, I will do that. And the point you made earlier, we used to have it, that social net safety system. We are losing it. So I'm suggesting that as part of planning for your future, make financial provision, but also be conscious to invest socially, because it's a support system that you need, even if they don't give you money. Earlier we're talking about being there. There is a special gift, or what do you call it, in pastoral care, that sometimes when you visit your church member or whatever, sometimes you don't need to say a word, just sit there. Let them know that Osofo is around. Just that. You've not said anything.
Or Osofo has sent me.
Osofo has sent me.
Yeah.
I know lately our mothers do the groups. They join the women group. They join, even outside church, they have their own women group. I think it really helps, you know. And then when one person loses their partner or family member or anything, they all come as a group and they donate.
That's right.
You know, they come and then they have their own canopy somewhere, you know, you get it. So with that, even if probably you don't have your people around you, there's some sense of belonging.
That's right.
You know, to the extent that now one that you're growing, or we're all growing all together. Once one person moves, you know that you have these people.
It's a group of people.
You know, as a group of people. But I was going to ask you something.
Go ahead.
That's we're talking about the financial bit. So I was going to ask you, did you lose anything? You know, taking care of your grandparent, or you know, anybody that you are taking personally?
Oh yes, it's obvious. But then the point is, I have had, perhaps not at their magnitude. I'm privileged to have my dad still around, and I pray he stays around for a while.
Amen.
Likewise, my mom. But
Hey, you have both.
they are still around.
Wonderful.
But my great grandmother and my grandmother, who is still around, I made that conscious effort to always go there and give them some support. And it's in that process that I pick out a lot of ideas. Sometimes my cousins will always ask, how come they always like it? But don't you see, can't you read through in between the lines? Because I'm always coming bearing gifts, you know. The last time I went home, I jumped off the bus around 5 a.m. and quickly dashed in there, put the bread under the, you know. So they always have a way of letting me know what's happening. And my cousins, they can't see it, you see. But it's a way of also letting you know that you are putting your money where it belongs. Because if you give money to support the seniors or the elderly, you are not wasting it, because these are people who once could work. Now they cannot.
They can't.
So that's the right time to support them and to invest in their
We've
life.
got some messages. I'll take them real quick. And this one here says, hello now, and Channel 1 team. I am an ardent viewer and listener of Channel 1 and City FM, and I want to especially commend you for this very educative, insightful program. Thank you for discussing everyday issues that we can really relate with. I must say it's very therapeutic for me when I listen to your guests share their knowledge and experiences, and I look forward to the show every weekday. I'm glad. Thank you for always giving us value and relevance. This is from Na Chawa from Temana. Thank you so much for this message. I'm Amanda. I didn't realize my dad was aging until I saw him struggling to open a bottle. It broke me. He used to open everything for me. My grandmother raised me when my mom left. She sold tomatoes to pay my fees. Now she's blind, and I'm doing everything to make sure she never feels forgotten. This is Kwame in Kaswa.
Wow.
God bless you.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things I also realized, and for me, that's also why I said earlier that I regret not doing more, is that a lot of the things that would make him happy are not expensive.
Yeah, that's what I was talking
They're
about,
not
the chocolate
expensive.
and then the panais.
So my dad,
Hey.
I got my sweet tooth from my dad. I got my sweet tooth from my dad. So you want my dad to be happy, just bring him ice cream. It's as
But
simple as that.
there's something about the ice cream.
No, how
Is
much
it
is ice
the
cream?
way it suits the throat or what? Because I also understand everybody ice
I
cream.
like ice cream.
Hey, you should see my grandmother with chocolate or fire yogurt or something.
Yeah.
There's no cheat, but you see, we can laugh at her, but she doesn't care. And she's not done till when the thing has melted in the so the way she turn around and cry, do like this and puts everything in her mouth.
You know,
Hey.
and my mom has always been a health freak, you know, and I got that also from her. But I realized that at the point my dad was like, you know what? And he didn't say this as aloud, but he was like, you know what? I'm on my way out. What's the big deal?
Yeah.
What is all this? Let's.
So there's a particular
The 90
an
we won't
advert.
get there with the 90. We
Won't
won't
get
get there.
there. Oh, no, come
Bring
on.
the ice cream. Bring the ice cream. Let's eat.
I think it's a video, it's a short video, skit or something. And then the gentleman was drinking sugary stuff, right? And then she was sitting there and said, yes, suddenly, yeah, no. Yes, sugar problem. Me no na me wo de. Me umpa na me no preko. Na me sa me no me ni so yes.
Mine is not a skit, it's reality. Mr. Lattice wife, who is now 100.
Okay. Oh wow.
Yeah, she turned
She's
100 on the
100.
6th of March.
Wow.
And one day we were serving her a cup of tea. And I said, is there sugar in it? She said, no. Please, for me. Add more. You want to come over to that?
Thank you.
It's true.
The little things they want. Look,
Yes.
I mean, one Sunday morning, I decided I wasn't going to go to church. I'd rather going to spend time with my dad. And that's one of my. I'm so happy I took that decision that morning. I'm not going to. I'm coming to. So I came to lie by him in the bed. So he see him to I'm here. I had my phone for security reasons, you know, because it's actually in Komonoko, you know, it's like he's falling asleep.
That's
Let me,
right.
so I can, because I don't want to get up. I don't want to feel like, okay, what am I doing?
Yeah.
I'm here, he's asleep. No, so let me have my phone so that he said to me before he fell asleep, he said, David, I want to eat something, but I'm not sure what. Then I said, oh. So in the category of what? So is it breakfast? Is it lunch? Is it what kind of? So oh no, something breakfasty. I said okay. So you want some eggs? I said yeah, eggs and bread. You know, put some butter on the
right.
bread. And I said okay. So how many eggs? Then he said oh, well. I was going to say one, but if you asked me how many, then do two for me. Then when he said do two for me, he said, but don't tell mommy. You know, which I thought was funny. But I said, look, Daddy, you want two, you want three, it's okay.
Yeah,
I'll go and
take
fry
it.
it for you. It's not a problem. It's not a problem. And I was very happy to be able to go and prepare that for him to be able to enjoy.
Right.
You
Now
know?
this final part before we go away. It's going to be a little bit sad, like, you know, the fear of losing them. You know, you see them grow with you because whilst you're growing, you're growing as well. You see them come back from work, they're energetic, they like to take you to the park, they're rooting for you when you're reciting that poem. And then all of a sudden, when you say, let's go here, so we can only say, my dad would say, catch at 6 and drive in. You know, he would drive after 6 because I can't see well. So when you go anywhere with him, 5, then he's pushing you. Hey, let's go before it's dark, you know. And now you sit back, it's like, why has he gotten to this point? So then now you're looking forward, okay, he's about to leave. You know, he's lying in bed. He himself keeps saying, when am I leaving? Or they start making statements like, me niha. You know, yeah. So let's talk about the fear of losing them. You know, definitely it's gonna come.
I think one of the things that culturally we don't do a good job of is talking about death and dying.
Yeah.
We don't.
Yeah.
The moment you raise the issue, people get nervous and anxious and no, we don't talk about that.
Yeah.
I know people who prepared the
Everybody
family
else.
around them. You know, my mom was very organized. And I remember there were times she would say, okay, Jamacho, baby, you were. I'm like, Ma, yes, you've told me already. And she had organized and labeled everything.
Wow.
I have a friend whose mom actually did, she said she doesn't want any reading of tributes, whatever. Bayu, kakrebi. She wrote the hymns she once sang at her funeral, etc., etc. But she talked to the family about it. And so when she went, there was nothing like, no, she said this, the family says that.
I know
everybody aligned.
Yeah.
You know, and I think as a people, we need to talk about it more often. Then the fear that grips us will be managed better.
Yeah.
If you, I lived in the US for a bit, and I was initially surprised at how open conversations around death was.
Yeah.
There was a class I was going to take, Death and Dying. There's a whole class in psychology on talking about death. And the ease with which they talk about it, the fear is not there. Ironically, we tend to be very spiritual people.
Yes.
And
when
yet,
say, talk about it, say, Cash in Jesus' name.
But you see, ironically,
That's exactly right.
Yeah,
That's
you
exactly
have,
right.
ironically, your place of faith, which should actually give you hope, which should actually give you the vim to say, you know what, when it comes, it comes.
yeah.
And I know where I'm going, I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ironically, that spirituality becomes the cover under which we push death. We
right.
close it,
We
and then
hide
that's
it,
it. We
yeah.
don't talk about
Yeah.
it. And so I think there's room for managing the fear, and it starts from talking openly about death and dying
Yeah.
as a people.
Right.
I don't know why we struggle.
Yeah.
Because again, like Dr. Ansah said, look, if we are people of faith and death is literally a doorway that swings from life into the afterlife, what are you worried about?
No, the thing is
Why
not
are we
for
afraid?
me worrying, but it's the fear of not seeing them again. The fear of not experiencing them again. The fear of not being hugged again. You know, the fear of not being able to love
True.
that particular soul again.
yeah.
That's what the fear is, I think.
Okay.
Not necessarily me as a mewu kind of
Okay.
thing. My fear is that the person who's loving me
Yeah.
is going to not love me again, fall into a state of pain, agony, and all the regrets coming usually when the people have left because you felt that you haven't spent enough time with them.
Yeah.
So the fear of, like, you know, at what point is the person leaving me? You know, have I spent enough time with this person? If the person should shut now, am I going to be okay? Or am I going to, like, you know, regret that I didn't do certain things? I think that's where the fear is, you
And
know.
all those thoughts are normal. Very, very normal and very okay.
Yeah.
Right? When you bottle it up, then we have a problem. But when you
Yeah.
talk about it and you express
Yeah.
it, then you start also building your own support system.
Yeah.
Right? So when the inevitable happens, you're able to cope. It's
Yeah.
difficult. And sometimes people assume that, oh, when a young person dies, it's painful. When an older person dies, it's not as painful. It's a lie.
No, it's not true.
It's a lie.
You're
All
right.
die,
You're
we
right.
die.
We die.
Thank you.
No,
I'll
but
take
I
my
think-
final message.
Just before you do that, please, let me just say this, that I heard Dr. Mensa Otabil say something many years ago, and he said that we mourn not because we are worried we won't see them again, but the sense of loss.
Yeah.
So the more valuable they are to you, the more painful the loss
It is.
And that's where
Thank
it's
you.
at.
That's where the fear is,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's where it's
So I can see my boss, Mr. Edu Jamefi. When it comes to the elderly now, please don't go there. He is a pro. And greetings to the panelists as well. This is Lydia that's texting. Okay, so we just have a few seconds to go away. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this with me. We've had a very wonderful conversation. So if you have an old lady, like you call them, or old boy in the house, Olu, with a coolie high, you know, spend some time with them. Sometimes they like to go to dance, party. They like to do like this. Go out there and dance
please
with
just
them.
add that June 15, which is this Sunday.
Yeah, it's actually my daughter's birthday, I remember.
Interesting. Yeah, it's a global day to create awareness on abuse and neglect of the elderly.
The elderly, right. So we remember that, 15th of June, okay? And thank you so much for joining us. I'll be back tomorrow, same time, and we'll definitely bring you another topic that's super interesting. It has been the Friends and Family Show. My name is Noyo Okwote. Mwah.